Hey, hi, it's me, your Void, and I'm tired. Remember that Adventurerathon thing I was talking about in the last video? Yeah, well, that thing has prompts, and sometimes people don't know what to read for these prompts, and I'm here to help you with this. The last 2 rounds, Kirsty did this by herself, and we were just filling out a little spreadsheet, and then she had to juggle a bajillion books. This round, we're doing it a bit different. She already made her video, and now you get this wonderful thing where I'm throwing books at you, sorted by the prompts. But this will not only be a recommendation video for the Adventurerathon main quest prompts, mind you, this is only for the main quest. This will also be a little guide on how to cheat at Adventurerathon, because some of these prompts are a pain in the ass. Looking at you, Ren. What the fuck? So yeah, here we go with some recommendations. The first prompt, and the only real prompt that you have to read something for, is the Guildhall prompt, which makes you choose between 4 different options, and depending on the option, you want to read something that aligns with the vibes of the option you chose. So the first option is a table with a bunch of happy-go-lucky people, and the prompt therefore is to read anything that's a fun time. You can read something cozy for that, you can read comedy for that, or you can read something quick and short because they are here for a fun time, not necessarily a long time. So I went with 2 mangas as an example. Pretty much any manga will count, I guess, because they are all short and sweet and stuff. So this is my all-time favorite manga. It's Soul Eater. It's just chaos galore, and it's Halloween themed, and it's camp, and yeah, it's brilliant. Read Soul Eater. Everyone should read Soul Eater. And the other one is SerVamp by Tanaka, which is a twist on the 7 Deadly Sins. The 7 Deadly Sins are all like super ancient vampires, and they all have their own little powers, and they all turn into little tiny animals when they don't want to anymore. And we follow someone who accidentally adopted the deadly sin of sloth, because it was just a tiny little cat on the street, and he was like, I'm gonna help this tiny little cat on the street, and now he's being roped into basically a civil war between these vampires, and happy, funny shenanigans ensue. Really cool one, really colorful, can only recommend. The second table in the Guildhall loves their weapons, and that is what I went for, because yes, I love me a good martial fantasy. My favorite subgenre is flintlock fantasy, which is always filled with war and fights and weapons, and yes. So, as it is tradition on this here channel and in my life, I have to recommend Promise of Blood by my love Brian McClellan, which is the first installment in the Powder Mage universe. And yes, it's my favorite book ever. I will make everyone read this book, period. And then another flintlock fantasy, although this has a little less of the magic variety of fantasy in it. There is magic in here, but it is way more martial than it is fantasy. The Thousand Names by Django Wexler, where we are fighting in a desert kingdom which has 1 or 2 secrets hidden below the sand. So yeah, this one is very heavily focused on the campaign that is going on. So you are basically just hopping from place to place, fighting battles to take over the place, and the actual like implications of that, why this war is being fought, they become clearer towards the end. Option number 3 for the Guildhall is a bunch of nature explorers. One might even call them rangers. And for that, I went with books that have an exploring theme to them, or just heavily feature like nature analysis. The first one being The Witcher. If you read The Witcher, you will learn a lot about certain places in this setting, and about monsters and their biology and whatnot. This is very much you go on an adventure to explore shit, just that you don't go with explorers, because the people in these books, they already know where they are and how things work, but you discover it when they meet it and have to fight it to not die. And book number 2 is Uncharted, the Fourth Labyrinth. Did you know that the Uncharted games have a book? I don't really know when this is set in relation to the games. I know this before the 4th book, because Elena in this one is not yet a thing. Yeah, and we go find the cool, fancy labyrinth. This is a fun read, and you can actually learn something in this if you are so inclined. I enjoyed this one. I also like the Uncharted games. And the last group you can choose from are the science nerds or the magic nerds. I went with 2 sci-fi picks for this one, simply because I know I have so many options to choose from when it comes to magic, so I was like, I'd rather not choose at all, so I picked like the small amount of sci-fi that I have. First one being The Arc of a Scythe by Neal Shusterman, very reflective German cover, where we live in a world that doesn't know death. We have cured every single disease there is, including aging. So now we have people called Scythes, and they go around and kill people, and when they kill people, they are not allowed to be resurrected. But if you die in any other way, you are immediately being resurrected. Like, it is the law that you may not die. And the whole world is controlled by this AI called the Thunderhead, and it's very interesting to see this utopia that slowly falls apart. Can only recommend. Which is exactly what I'm doing right now. Duh. My second recommendation for this prompt would be Gideon the Ninth, which is often described as lesbian necromancers in space. And while that is true, the focus is not actually the lesbian necromancers or the space. I mean, yes, we are somewhere that is not Earth, but the fact that we are not on Earth is not that important. We follow the lesbians doing necromancer stuff, yes, but it's more like a murder mystery escape room kind of situation. Be aware though, this book is not ADHD friendly. This has a big cast, and everyone has like 7 different names that are used interchangeably for them. I am very thankful for the list of characters in the front. I would have liked to have all the nicknames for them down there as well, but it's a lot to keep track of, just in terms of names and who dies, who lives, and who tells a story. But wow, yeah. But it's a good book. It's a really good book. It's going places, and let's just say the phrase, "I gave you super cancer," is an actual line in this book. Now for the Elder Glade, which prompts you to read something that has a magical forest in it. This is also the first lesson in how to cheat at the Adventurerathon, because I don't have books with magical forests in them. At least I haven't read one of those in quite a while, and I don't think I have one of those on my shelf that I have read, and I don't usually recommend books that I haven't read yet. So instead of bringing you magical forests, I bring you forests with something magical in them, or something forest adjacent. First one being Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. The forest itself isn't magical, but there's a magical creature living in it, and people with magic go into the forest to look for the magical creature. Therefore, it counts as a magical forest for me. And the second one is Gallant by Schwab. Again, not a magical forest, but we go to a big manor that is somewhere in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by a forest, and this manor has a weird garden, and the garden has a weirder part that is somehow somewhat filled with magic. So again, there is a somewhat of a forest, we are somewhat in the forest, and there is a planned space that does shit not necessarily informed by nature and more by magic, I guess. The prompt for Karst Village is to read something that has any form of place in the title. So we go with another Victoria Schwab one, City of Ghosts, which city... And also the city is very much part of the story. The history of the city and certain places in the city, very important to the plot. So there you go. Place. The second rec for this prompt that I have is one of my all-time favorites, which is Rivers of London. I love this series. I really need to catch up on the series because there are 32 entries and I am on the last book of the series that is currently published. I don't know if there's going to be another book. Rivers of London, we follow Peter, who is a copper in London, and he starts he sees a ghost, and he, being the policeman that he is, interrogates the ghost about, hey, have you seen who murdered this person? And we spiral out from there, because apparently magic is real, and the police have a section for that deals with that, and Peter somehow becomes the new student of magic in this story, and it's an all-time favorite of mine. The prompt for the Ilaria ruins is that you should read something where history is relevant to the plot in some way or form. So I went with Blackwings by Ed McDonald, which is set after a major event that happened. Multiple major events happened, and now the world is fucked. So we follow characters who have to deal with the aftermath of these cataclysmic events, and they may want to prevent new cataclysmic events of the same size and magnitude and stuff. Or maybe they want to cause one, who knows? You'll find out. Speaking of cataclysmic events, 5th season has a lot of these, and again, history is very important in this one in more than one way. The story is told in 3 different perspectives, and all of them, well, 2 of them at least, have some sort of connection to what happened to them before, but also the whole world building part of things is really much informed by what came before, and I cannot say more because then I would spoil the book. For the Sage's Retreat, you need a random letter generator, and I am not insane enough to give you 26 different recommendations for each letter of the fucking alphabet. I am not going to do that. You read books, you know letters. I am pretty sure you can find a book for every letter of the alphabet that might come up in this one. Go forth! Pretend to be a grown-up. DIY the shit. The Well of Fortune prompts you to read something that has a known magic source, so you know where your magic comes from, possibly where it goes, and maybe it meets Cotton Eye Joe on the way. First book that I recommend for this one is The Last Smile in Sunder City by Luke Arnold, which is a neo-noir fantasy story, kind of. The world was once filled with magic, and now it is gone, because the known source of magic was destroyed, and now we have to live with the aftermath, and people are frantically searching for the magic in the world, knowing full well it isn't there anymore, and yet the last remnants can still be felt, and everyone is still clinging on to this because it was such a fundamental part of society. The second one for this prompt is Ink and Sigil by Kevin Hearne. The magic source is in the title. The magic comes from or is channeled through sigils that they draw with specific inks. The fountain pen is not that important, but our main character is very anal about his fountain pens. But the important part are the inks that you use and the sigils you write with them. And if that is not sourcey enough for you, we also know where these sigils come from. They were given by some Celtic gods to mankind to protect mankind from certain kinds of magical dangers. And then we come to the Everglow Falls. This is going to be lesson 2 in how to cheat at the Adventurerathon. Because the prompt for the Everglow Falls says that you need a source of light and a source of water on the cover. Do you know how hard it is to find something like that? Looking at you, Ren. So here's how you can cheat on that. This is Sins of Empire. Technically, there is no source of light on here. This is a beautiful, beautiful color scheme for a setting sun, but you don't see the sun on the cover. Technically, there's water on here, there's a river, but how can you cheat at this prompt with Sins of Empire? Well, part of the title is the name of the series, which is Gods of Blood and Powder. Blood is a liquid, and powder is a source of ignition. Therefore, I personally count it as a source of light and a source of water. Fuck you, Ren! And there you have it. A nice short list of recommendations for each of the main prompts. I will add all of these and possibly more to the spreadsheet that Kirsty has set up for this whole thing. You can also put your own recommendations in the sheet, on the sheet, through the sheet. If you don't find anything on the list, you can always ask in the Discord. We always have a lot of people who ask, is this cover okay? Is this title okay? Would you consider this be part of this and that? Again, we are here to help on the Discord. You can also ask in the comments, type away, we help you. And in the end, it's all up to interpretation. As you've seen with me and the horrible, horrible prompt that is the Everglow Falls, I stretch prompts sometimes. If it fits, it sits, okay? So, yeah, have fun reading in January, everyone. Bye! People need to stop dying around here.